Hey, this is Cornelius Lindsey, and welcome to the Silent Majority. You know, with growing partisan distaste amongst many voters, there's a silent majority that's growing that doesn't find a home in either of America's two major political parties. People don't know how to identify themselves, and a large number of people are simply not voting. Of all the voters, many people are just unsatisfied with either the candidates or the system. This silent majority is growing, and we have something to say. Welcome to the Silent Majority. You seem taller than I do, and we know in real life
I'm like 3 inches taller than you.
That in itself is not accurate, but we're not going to have this debate right here because just
5'11", right?
You know I ain't
5'10" on a good day.
You know I ain't no dog. You know I ain't no 5 nothing, pimp. You know I ain't no 5 nothing. But nevertheless, this is Cornelius Lindsey and also Jarid, this guy. But we're here again with another episode of Silent Majority. Before I even talk about the debate here tonight, there was this picture that was circulating around the internet, and it's completely false. It's a picture of me that people are saying I was at a Republican rally. And then I saw it again. Yes. Some people said I was at a Trump rally. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely not true. I definitely was.
And that you condone white supremacy.
And I condone white supremacy. What the heck is that? What kind of dumb stuff is that?
I don't know where these people come up with this stuff.
This is crazy. But the truth is that I was at a Faith and Freedom conference by the Faith and Freedom Coalition. And why else wouldn't you expect for a preacher to stand up for his faith? And I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. There's no you convince me otherwise. And I believe in my freedoms as an American citizen. I was at a Faith and Freedom conference, which is completely nonpartisan, but it just so happens that the party and the two major parties systems here in America, out of those two parties, the one party that favors more faith and freedom are the Republican Party, and it was a Republican Party. So there were Republican speakers there, and one of those speakers was also a Vice President Mike Pence, but nevertheless. It wasn't a Republican rally. It wasn't any of that stuff. And then the thing was that he wasn't wearing a mask. Well, when I walked in, I went through every COVID-19 procedure that was not only authorized by Faith and Freedom Coalition, but also by the Cobb Galleria. So, it's the polarization that right now our country is in, like for people who claim to be so tolerant or to be such protectors of truth. And listen, I'm not, it's not like I'm a novice to accusations. I'm known to be accused of a lot of different things, and none of them are factual.
People ain't got nothing better to do, man. Like,
it's so idiotic. It's so dumb. I don't even like giving attention to the crap. But nevertheless, I make no apologies for standing up for my faith. I make no apologies for standing up for my own freedom. I make no apologies for expressing myself as I did. Every person that walked inside of that Galleria was there up on their own cognizance, because I, like every other American, like millions of other Americans in this world, we believe that, we as human beings, we can make our own doggone decisions as to what we're going to do. But nevertheless, we're going to talk about this debate because this debate was surprisingly, it was good. Here's the thing I want to say. The adults were in the room tonight.
It was so much calmer.
The adults were in the room tonight.
A very calm debate. I mean, they gave each other room to speak.
Yeah.
I
wanted to especially bring you on because I know that you are, if there's anybody in my life that I know is extremely down the middle, because you don't care either way. You've already made it abundantly clear you ain't gonna vote. So really watching the debate is useless for you, but nevertheless,
it's entertaining. It's entertaining. I will say that.
It was. But tonight, was there a winner for you?
That's a good question. I think that Kamala, she came out throwing haymakers from the jump. First thing she said that was the current administration was a complete failure. So she's throwing haymakers out in the beginning. Mike Pence came with some counter. He definitely threw a lot of shade in the most Christian way possible.
It was like, you're a horrible senator. You're a great person.
And thank you for being here with me.
And thank you for being with me.
And for your service.
Thank you for your historic nomination to be VP. Just wanted to let you know you'd be the worst one ever. It's like
a clear winner. Good question. I don't know. I think that I will say Mike Pence, he looked very, very presidential. He was very calm. He was very collected. I mean, just the way that he just looked presidential. I always talk about how you have to have this look about you, right? And he had it. I think that he really controlled the conversation. There was a lot of times where Kamala was just like, "Excuse me, I'm talking." Yes, and it was very childish.
What did you see that as childish?
I thought so. I mean, she was just like, "Okay, like, I'm talking," and he was just sitting there like he wasn't throwing back all of these crazy rebuttals or talking over her or nothing like that. He was just sitting there, just like, "Okay, I'm listening."
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple times where, I thought it was outside of his character because, the moderator would continue to say, Vice President Pence, you're finished, Vice President. And there were a couple of times that I remember, that she was talking and then he would start talking. And then that's when she looked at him. She said, Vice President, I'm talking. Let me finish. And I'm just like, to some people, that's political theater. Some people that's like, dang, yeah, she got him. She torched him. Mm-hmm. But I think to the average person sitting at home, they look at that and they think, well, that was childish. Like, okay, but that was childish. And I honestly, watching it, I was walking a very, very tight line. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I grew up in a house with a woman of color. My mama black.
Shout out Mimi.
Shout out to Mimi. I grew up I grew up in a house with a woman of color. I grew up in a house. I grew up in a house. I have an older sister. When women of color typically, when they express themselves very passionately. Mm-hmm. We saw that with Michelle Obama when she gave her speech for the DNC, and I did a podcast on it about that whole narrative of the woman of color. When Michelle Obama gave her speech to the DNC, Tucker Carlson and the rest of them said that she was angry. She came off as this, she came off as that. Well, in the RNC, when John Jr.'s girlfriend, Kimberly, I forget her last name, when she got up, she said from the jump, I'm a Latina. And when she said that, she was very passionate and she was screaming. So SNL and everybody else has made all these different parodies about her being passionate. Tonight, I wanted to look beyond the passion that I know that comes from women of color. Because I saw that. I would honestly tonight, if I had to take a past historical debate and make it tonight and say who mirrored who. This was almost like a Ronald Reagan, Dukakis type of thing, where it was like you had this Reagan-esque type of guy who was just kind of calm and like, well, this is what it is. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna feed you the facts, and you don't like the facts. There was one line that he said, listen, you are entitled to your own opinion. It was something like that. You are entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to the truth. And, it was this Reagan-esque type of thing. I remember, never forget, back then when Dukakis was like, they asked him a question about, Reagan's age and stuff like that. And Ronald Reagan, he made the comment. He said, I understand my opponents, blah, 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 this. He said, but I will not make age a topic of this campaign. He said, I will not exploit for political reasons my opponent's youth and inexperience. It's like he turned it around and he made it out to be something that was lighter, that was funnier, but still hit a point home. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt like Mike Pence was, like I felt Mike Pence really did tonight. That Mike Pence he took a question and he said, I know this is what you're going to do. This is what you mean, but let me take this thing, let me flip it, and let me really show you what it really is. And he was driving the point home.
He did an incredible job of just showing, what kind of character he has when drilled with hard questions. I think that he did, like I said, he looked very presidential. He did a really good job. Kamala is what their daddy called her.
I'm sure her daddy called her Kamala.
She was very animated
She was very animated.
And sitting back and, giving all I kept thinking about was those. You guys ever seen that Chihuahua meme?
No, that's not what we're doing.
She got the Chihuahua eyes.
That's not what we're doing. But did her looks, her facial expressions. But, and that was the thing. When I was watching it, I'm like, hold up. All right, let's be fair here. Because Mike Pence on the other side, he was, no. He was like, no. Nah, that ain't right. That ain't right. The American public, we sit at home and we're like, well, what is the truth? Because, I remember on the debate stage when Kamala and Joe said they would. I remember, hearing these things. I remember hearing Joe last week during the last debate with Donald Trump say that I don't support the Green New Deal. But was he talking about his Green New Deal? Yeah. Was he talking about his Green New Deal? Was he talking about AOC's Green New Deal? I remember he talked about that because I talked about it on my podcast afterwards.
Mike Pence kept saying that they're in favor for the Green New Deal.
Well, Joe would know. So Joe Biden came out and Joe Biden said that he was not in favor of the Green New Deal.
Okay.
And it on Joe Biden's website, because I went to the website afterwards, the website talks about the Green New Deal. Mm-hmm. Whereas, and as Mike Pence brought up tonight, that USA Today basically came out and said that the deals, that both of them look so similar that it doesn't really look any different from AOC's New Deal or from the Green New Deal that AOC and Kamala, kind of paired upon to bring about.
Did he call it plagiarism?
He did. He said it's he wasn't talking about the Green New Deal though. He was talking about coronavirus then. He's like, it's like, well, all the things that you and Joe said that you guys want to do, it almost looking very incredibly similar to the things that Trump and I have already done. He said, I would just go as far as saying plagiarism. He said, which I believe that Joe Biden knows a lot about.
Shade.
Shade. It was one of those things that a Southern Baptist preacher, how deep up there preaching, he done told you going straight to hell. You ain't know it till you got home. Like you drive home, you're like, what did he say to me? I know you turn your whole car around. But I know he didn't just say to me that I'm going to hell. I know he didn't just say. I promise you, that's how it came across. That's legit. It was like, because sometimes you sit there, I was watching some parts. I was like, wow, okay. Well, hold on. He just say that. He didn't just say that, but he almost had to, because not only was he debating a woman, but let's be honest, we live in a polarized society. He was also debating a woman of color, and it was in my opinion, a very fine line that he would have to walk in order to convey a very strong message, to seem strong, but not to seem overbearing to the point where now people would say he's only doing that to her because she's a woman. Or that he's only doing that to her because she is a woman of color. And then you definitely don't want the narrative that, look at this, that white man talking down to this black woman or to this woman of color.
Not the goods.
So, I think knowing all of that was already stacked against Vice President Pence, just watching it, I thought, why can't Pence be the one running for president?
He really looked, like I say, like he can hold his own for sure. I thought Kamala. I'm sorry. I thought she made a lot of good points too. And just talking about like how Trump has just been completely off his rocker. when it comes to protection of the American people and coronavirus and everything like that. They both made like great points. I could see I could see both of them just really making good points. But I think that if I was to say anybody won that debate, it was definitely that fly.
Here we go. But before so we got to get to the fly. We got to the fly part. But one of the parts that I thought was very disturbing was in the very beginning. Remember, Kamala was making she was going after Mike Pence about not being transparent. Remember, she said Joe has always been transparent. She said he just kind of puts it out there and he just kind of lets you decide.
What do you think about that?
But he's been transparent. Well,
as far as like not talking to the American people, like, yo, and letting them know earlier when the coronavirus was around, like, yo, this is what it is, instead of waiting and trying to keep everybody calm? Like, what do you think about that?
Well,
would you have, if you got the
I want to answer that.
Would you have,
excuse me, I'm talking. I'm going to use that, bro. I'll be like, hold up, excuse me. Excuse me, I'm talking. Oh, here you go. Okay, finish your question.
So I just want to know, what do you think about that? Like, as far as, okay, would you have let the American people know earlier, as far as, this is the intel we got, this is what's going on, or would you have played the safe or tried to be safe and say, you know, we want to protect you, we don't want to get everybody's panties up in a bunch and so forth?
Well, you know what, Jared, I appreciate the question, but I'm going to go back.
You're going to go back to that. Okay. I'm going to use my time to address. I'm going to use my time to go back, and I'm going to need more time because this is a very important question, and American people deserve to know. But I'm really going to do that. I'm going to go back real quick because this is the point I wanted to make before I forget. The point I wanted to make is that Kamala was going at Mike Pence about Joe being extremely transparent. And that's what she said. Joe is so transparent. He's so transparent. He's so transparent. He's so transparent. Mike Pence said, well, if you and Joe Biden get elected, will you stack the Supreme Court? Ooh.
She would not answer the question.
Because the answer is yes.
Well, but here's the thing. Whether the answer is yes or no, if Joe is so transparent, why won't you answer the question?
Why don't you answer the question?
So now it leads you to believe, going back to the beginning of the debate, if he is so transparent, then give me an answer. Mm-hmm. The American people want to know if Amy Coney Barrett, if she is nominated to the Supreme Court, will the Democrats then go and when we talk about stacking the court, what they're talking about is adding additional justices. Ultimately, they would bring statehood to Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., which would ultimately add up to 4 additional Supreme Court justices. If that is the case, then a Vice President Joe Biden could then as president nominate up to 4 different nominate 4 judges. Mm-hmm. If that was the case, then it would be a complete liberal leaning justice, and I mean, just really, in my opinion, really just an attack upon American democracy. And it comes into, when I don't get my way, this is what I'm going to do.
You want to change the rules.
I want to change the rules. But now going back to your question, which I think was a very good question, by the way, because the American people deserve to know, and I need more time in answering it.
You had 15 seconds.
15 seconds. She was like 15 seconds. I was like, girl, you know they ain't going to take no 15 seconds. My kids don't even take 15 seconds. If I told my oldest son 15 seconds, I wouldn't never get nothing out of it. But nevertheless, I'm a father. I'm also, you know, I have my own businesses, pastor, all that kind of stuff. Oftentimes leadership is difficult because the information that you have to make the decision on how much you want to share with the people.
Right.
As a father, a leader of my house, a father and a husband, there is information that I say, how much of this do I want to share? Can I keep this contained as much as possible? And if somehow it does get out, I bear the responsibility. I bear the brunt of saying, well, if you would have known. But the good thing is that, you know, I knew as a leader, I knew, even though there's nothing. I mean, you know, okay, let's go to this question here. And to finish answering the question, if I had known, as that leader, I would want more information at that time. I probably would have done pretty much the same thing President Trump did. I would have banned, if I thought it came from China or something like that, I would have banned travel from China or something like that. Given the information he has, which is a whole lot more than I have, I would have done everything that I possibly can to provide calm in the country. Mm-hmm. Instead of bringing alarm to the country and then saying, hey, there's this super spreader virus around, everybody panic, which is essentially what happened, which everybody went out and bought toilet paper, bought tissue. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. We're trying to put on masks and we don't know where to wear a mask and we don't know about this. It's like, you know, at that point when we knew about it, you know, we gather all the health professionals together. This is what we do. But in my opinion, that's really what was happening. Does that mean I need to bring everybody in at that particular moment to let everybody know in January? I don't think so. Because everybody, I mean, we as American citizens, there's just certain things like I already have things I have to worry about myself. If I would have known about this in January, I asked the question, could I have stopped it sooner from coming into my house or my neighbor's house? Like we know, my wife and I, we know people who have not, they refuse to leave their homes, haven't left their homes in months. They still contracted coronavirus.
Yeah.
So, and then they said it was airborne. It wasn't airborne. It came in from shoes. It didn't come from shoes. It comes in with your groceries. Don't come in with your groceries. Wear gloves. Don't wear gloves, and wear a mask, but then don't wear the mask all the time. But you either wear a mask outside. It's like with so much stuff that's out there, it's like people, they still contracted it. So it's very, that's one of those things where I believe at the heart of it, they're seeking to politicize a virus. Mm-hmm. And then they're using,
say it's your fault,
and using to weaponize it. Yeah, but it's a virus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I don't like. I'm like, how can you say this amount of people contracted the virus under your administration, your watch, and your leadership, and this is the amount of people that died under your watch and your leadership, and if it was under our leadership, we would have let people know sooner.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
And like, how can you judge those facts